Professional Development Programming, a brand's journey to circularity. I'm Sasha Brown, the Director of Professional Development, and today I am so honored to introduce three incredible brand leaders who are each bringing an incredibly unique perspective how they've integrated circularity into their businesses. Today we are joined by Sean Barron, who is the co-founder of ReDone, Dana Davis, who's the VP of Sustainability, Product, and Business Strategy at Mara Hoffman, and Angela Luna, who's the founder and CEO of Adif. We're so grateful to be partnering with Recurate on this series. Recurate is a branded re-commerce startup that enables an integrated resale marketplace on your e-commerce store so that you can keep your customers and products on your website. Adam Siegel, who's the founder and CEO, is once again joining us today to lead this conversation. And he has also generously offered his time to meet with any guests attending this webinar who are interested in discussing their own circularity questions and ideas. His office hours are tomorrow and next Friday, so please email me directly if you'd like to set up some time with Adam. Quickly before I hand it over to Adam, I want to remind everyone that we will be holding a Q&A towards the end of the hour. So please submit your questions to our speakers and to Adam via the question box, and we'll get to those towards the end. Now over to you, Adam.
Well, thank you so much, Sasha, and to all of CFDA and its members for having us today. I'm super excited for this series. There's a whole lot going on in the fashion industry these days in terms of change generally, but certainly with regard to momentum in sustainability and circularity. And so I'm just appreciative that CFDA is willing to host these conversations as an industry and continue to move the needle forward. Like Sasha said, we have three amazing leaders today. The last session, which was just last week, for those of you who tuned into that, were experts from the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, the Apparel Impact Institute, and Fashion Positive. They gave us kind of an overview of sustainability and circularity in the fashion industry, and given their respective roles, that was a great foundational conversation or introduction. But now we're going to try to get very practical. And so that's why we're joined today by three leaders from a diversity of brands. You know, each of your brands is actually fairly different from one another. And the conversation that we're going to try to have is just to understand, you know, where things are today, what it means to be a leader, and where we see things going in the future. So with that, I'm just going to kick it off with asking everyone to quickly introduce yourselves and the brand you work for and what makes you unique. And Angela, if you don't mind going first here with that introduction, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So hi, everyone. My name is Angela Luna, and I am the founder and CEO of Adif. Adif is a sustainable fashion brand that is committed to addressing global issues through design. We're most well known for our transformable garments, specifically our jacket that can convert into a tent, which is on display behind me. All of our products are made at our facility in Greece that employs resettled refugees tailors from Afghanistan and specializes in upcycling pre- and post-consumer waste material. We also understand that larger brands often have the biggest issue of waste in their manufacturing and overproduction, which we see as raw material to make new collections. So for the last year to year and a half, we've been working on collaborations and partnerships with established brands to become their end-of-life garment recycler. So that's a little bit about Adif.
Fantastic. So if it's not already obvious, your work and your brand was founded with sustainability, circularity, and responsible production in mind, which is fantastic. Sean, would you like to introduce yourself and ReDone next?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Thanks, Adam, for having me. I've been in the business, this industry for quite a long time, for over, I'm not going to tell you guys, but a lot of years. And I founded a company called ReDone, which seriously at that time had nothing to do, we didn't think about sustainability, anything that other than taking an old pair of Levi's and making a new jean out of it. And we learned very quickly. And at that time in 2014, it wasn't a very big topic. The topic was not, it was more just a fashion topic. And we launched it with the premise of like everybody should be individual human beings, and all the jeans at that time looked the same. They were like blue stretchy things. And we made each jean was individual. So we were promoting individuality. And when we launched, people kept emailing us or DMing us saying that we love what you're doing, and we didn't even know what that meant, because we didn't, it just was what they were saying to us, and we started realizing they loved the fact that we were upcycling product. So the genesis of the company was just two guys starting a cool idea to kind of solve some problems, and ended up being a very meaningful mission to become, sustainable. And we've upcycled 145,000 pairs of Levi's to date, and all of our other, and then we started making other clothes and collaborate with other heritage brands, and everything we do now is sustainable in one form or another. We're not 100% perfect, but it's hard to say anybody can be, but we're 100% responsible in our methods. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far, and I'm glad that we can chat about this today too.
Super cool. And for me, just an interesting takeaway from that is that, whereas Angela built the brand with sustainability in mind, Sean, though that wasn't necessarily the first thing on your mind, your customers quickly brought you there. And of course, that's a theme that I'm sure is going to come up over the course of this conversation as well, is, where's the customer going?
Or where's she taking us, because we have to listen to her now.
Yeah, exactly. Dana.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks Adam and CFDA for having me. So I guess we're kind of a different story. So I work for Mara Hoffman Contemporary Brand. We're in our 21st year of business, and we weren't built on sustainability, and kind of made the shift, a complete shift 15 years into the business. So now our brand purpose is really to foster mindful consumption. So with that, we really try to maintain that open conversation about how we approach our manufacturing, our fibers, and we encourage our consumers to really reevaluate their relationship with their clothing. So, how do they extend the life of their garment? How do they practice uniform dressing? We touch on sustainable materials, the processes, how they're produced, and then also kind of that idea of how do we really extend that garment. And I think to your question of like what makes us unique, for me, when I think about that, I just think about Mara herself as the leader. This, to shift a business 15 years in and say to truly recognize where the industry was going and the impacts, and say I no longer want to operate like this. I want to change, or I want to get out of this. So I just feel so grateful to have a leader who continuously pushes us, and it's not about pushing, revenue. It's about pushing us to think about new ways to operate within this industry. So yeah.
Thank you. That's fantastic. And if you don't mind, before we get to the next question, Dana, I want to drill in on that just a bit more, because it sounds like, if I understand right, there was an inflection point in Mara's life where she realized that what she was doing isn't what she wants to be doing. And it sounds like maybe that was 6 or so years ago. And so my question is, why? What changed her mind? And if it was according to economists or diehard business people, they'd say, well, there was a business case, but I have a feeling it wasn't that case in Mara's case. So what was it?
Not a business case. I think it was a couple of things. One was having a child and really recognizing the amount being left behind, and what would he be responsible for. There were a lot of conversations kind of coming up around just what were we doing to the planet, the impacts on the planet and the industry itself. And Mara's circle of friends there was individuals who were living that zero waste lifestyle, and we would have these conversations around, wow, that's so amazing, how could we do that? And then here we were in our office drowning in samples and clothes and fabrics. And so the thought of it felt absolutely impossible to make that shift, but then the reality and the weight of that just got too intense, where Mara I mean, really, it was like either we shut this down or Dana, figure out how do we kind of change this. And so I think it was just and Mara has intuition, you know, and she's just guided by that, and she's not afraid to contract, because in order to make those shifts, we had to contract the business, and we had to maintain and run the business, but shift at the same time. And so, you know, not letting that fear stop us and just keep moving.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we need more leaders like that, don't we? So Dana, I'll ask you the next question first, which is, how do you define sustainability and circularity? And the reason why I asked this question, again, it's kind of a foundational question, because those are two very big and hefty topics. And you know, you ask 100 different people and they describe it in 100 different ways. And so, you know, for the sake of this conversation and the audience that we have here, what do those words mean to you?
Sure. You know, I think they go hand in hand. So I'm just going to focus kind of overall on just our approach and the way that we look at it, because you can't look at sustainability without looking at circularity. So we have to recognize that our natural resources are finite, like that, you know, we just can't keep this take model. And we have to aim to keep our products in circulation for as long as possible. So however one wants to achieve that, by reusing, repairing, remanufacturing, the sharing economy, or recycling. And it has to also be like an economic, natural, and social capital being approached within that, along with social justice. So are we, you know, looking at the distribution of wealth? So focusing on job creation and strengthening underserved communities. So it's so layered, but I think like that's kind of like our steering of how we look at really how we operate the business. It's not how we look at sustainability or circularity. It's just kind of the business ethos.
Thank you. One thing that I'm sure we'll get into later in this conversation is just the overwhelming sense of how much needs to be done, and I think your definition at least makes me feel that way. You know, how can a brand solve all of these problems? There's just so many things to have to focus on, and so you know, hopefully in the course of this conversation we can begin to think about, okay, you know, if you can't do everything, what are the most important things? What are the first things that you can do to at least begin addressing the issues that are most critical to the business?
I would even say too.
Go on, Angela.
I was going to say, I think that one of the most common misconceptions is that fashion is sort of in this little bubble of its own, and it doesn't actually have too much of a tangible impact. When the supply chain and the entire process of producing any garments for any brand touches so many people within, you know, all across the world. So I definitely want to highlight what Dana mentioned about it's, you know, it's about the people too. So often circularity and sustainability is just focused on the environment, which is a really key point, but also making sure that the people who are making these products are having sustainable living wages and having a lifestyle that they can actually grow and continue to, you know, create their own lives, as opposed to this sort of indentured servitude that the garment industry has sort of perpetuated as fast fashion has rose and kind of taken over. But yeah, definitely sort of seeing that sustainability encompasses a lot more than just, you know, if your textiles are recycled or things like that, and just sort of trying to approach it in any way that you can, but also keeping in mind that people are a really big part of that.
Absolutely. Sean, what do you think? How do you define sustainability or circularity?
You know, it's funny. Everybody has such good answers here. Like I could just sit back and listen. I think for us, we like the word responsible more, because I think it encompasses everything you guys are all saying. We, you know, and what's really interesting, I'm sure you guys have the same thing effect, is like the whole team gets really into it and they get really excited when they discover a new source of doing something responsible. And, you know, my supply chain director will come to me, you know, we found this new factory that, you know, that all the water gets recycled and they make it into drinking water, and they're all very excited. It's not like they go on their own and find these things. So what it becomes very it starts festering itself within our company, and I'm sure with you guys the same, that people get very excited about the idea of being a responsible company and finding new ways to be sustainable, new ways to have factories that pay the right wages, and the factories are excited that we're excited. So I think the business is becoming a very exciting, it's 3 times I've said that word, but it is like the business has become an exciting place to be when it was just more of a grind before. And I think now every person in my company, and I'm sure with Dana's company, Angela's company, people are just like, hey, I found this new thing, we can do this now, can we try that? And it becomes very, very exciting. And I, you know, someone mentioned the fast fashion, like it's interesting to see the fast fashion players now getting into it, because it makes us all feel good that everybody's trying to solve this problem. And like Mara Hoffman, I have a 10-year-old kid that I'm thinking about also every day, and how she's going to be able to, you know, to have a world to work in and live in and have her family. And so all of it is motivated by a lot of emotions, motivate the sustainability thing. And I think it's great.
Well, that's awesome. And Sean, I'm going to ask you another question and continue the theme of excitement. Thinking about your business now and over the next 6 to 12 months, what are 2 to 3 programs that you're most excited about? And what in your mind makes those leadership programs for you, or leading efforts?
I mean, I think first of all, it's funny that you're asking me that question, because you're one of my my initiatives. We're launching something with Adam that we worked on together to start a peer-to-peer resale of the Redone product to other people. And I think it's, you know, there's so many reasons why we do it. For obviously it's because it's circular, but also it kind of gets the person who maybe wasn't able to be part of our community become part of the community at a better entry price point, and the person who has the product to get revenue from it and to buy more. It's all very interesting to watch, you know, and to watch it become a real thing. We haven't launched it yet. We've just launched the bumper page, and we've got so many people signing up to be part of this thing. So it's really exciting. So that's one of the things. We also have a marketplace, which we work with like artisan designers who use recycled, upcycled materials like jewelry and repurposed sunglasses and all these things. So that's been really good for us, and it's been good. It's been a good revenue, but more importantly, it's like people really love it, and they really like that we're doing this, and we sell out really quickly, and it's quite expensive. And but again, it's back to the statement of people, you know, what I said at the beginning, people love what we do. Like, we use that as like, okay, what are we doing now? Let's make sure, will they love that? You know, so we're very mindful of that. So those are the, you know, the 2 things. We're also, you know, like I said, it's an ongoing initiative to find new ways to do things, you know, and find new fabrics that we're now going to make a t-shirt that's 100% circular. So, but when the person's done with it and give it back to us, then we'll grind it and make new pulp out of it, make new yarn out of it. So like, we're working on all of these interesting things, and that'll come out next year sometime. So those are the 3 that we're excited. But I mean, Adam, it's funny, I'm really excited about our project, which makes it this 5:30 wake up actually, you know, worth it.
For those of you who haven't heard yet, Sean is in Hawaii, so he's joining us bright and early his time, which is why the sun is slowly rising behind his back.
Yeah.
Well, again, my intention was not necessarily to highlight our efforts, but I appreciate that. Dana, you have a ton going on in your world. I listened to you and Mara Hoffman on your Instagram live a week or 2 ago, and I mean, I was overwhelmed by the diversity of initiatives that you all are focused on. But if you could narrow it down to 2 or 3 initiatives that you're most excited about, and why those are leading efforts in your mind.
Sure. I mean, I also want to echo the excitement. So we launched a project with Recurate, I guess 2 months now. Wow. Well, maybe a month, full circle, and it's live on our site. And that's been something so amazing to see. And what I am excited to see in the future is that to continue to grow and to see the community that comes out of that. That's something that I'm really looking forward for us to continue that conversation with our audience. Yeah, we have a ton of exciting projects. Next week or in 2 weeks, we'll be launching, due to the pandemic, we had some overstock, right, of garments, as every brand does. And so we took some of our white inventory and we worked with a local dyer here in New York, a natural dyer, Cara Marie Piazza, and she did some amazing botanical dyes for us on these white pieces. I'm so excited for those. We have in our next collection, we're continuing to expand on our recycled fibers. So we've been working with recycled fibers for about 7 years now, but we'll be introducing 100% recycled cashmere and 100% recycled wool and a woven 100% recycled cotton, which is really exciting to be able to bring those to the market. And we're continuing to expand on our climate beneficial. So we've worked really closely with FiberShed to create a fully domestic supply chain. So the sheep are raised in California and the yarn is spun here on the East Coast and the garments are knit in the Midwest. So it's just a lot of really exciting things going on.
If you don't mind me diving into that just a bit more, because I think those are really interesting initiatives and certainly fairly unique amongst the industry. With your climate beneficial and US-based supply chains, have you noticed any benefits, like business benefits to that, whether it's customers that are coming to you and saying, wow, this is just awesome. Like, I was already loyal, now I will never imagine going to another brand, or, you know, sales or lower cost or quality, or, you know, what are you seeing from those sorts of initiatives?
Well, we've always been committed to manufacturing in the US. Not all of our brand is, but all of our swimwear is made in California. Portions of our ready-to-wear are made in the garment district in New York. I think what's so amazing about the climate beneficial is that every single component of those pieces come from the US, which anybody in this industry knows how near impossible that is. Like, even the yarn that is linking the sweaters is from the US, the labels and the garments. So it was definitely a labor of love. We see quicker turn times, so we're able to kind of react, which is amazing when you work onshore. You have smaller minimums, you have relationships with your suppliers. So how amazing when we're kind of out of this pandemic world that we can be at the farm level, we can be with the sheep, we can watch the shearing. So having that transparency when you manufacture domestic is, I mean, it's something that you really, you just can't get when you're overseas. You can't be in all parts of your supply chain at all times. So it really is amazing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, unless you're one of the largest brands and you can have people and operations in all of the countries in which, but you know,
possibly if they know, right? If they know where they are manufacturing.
Yeah, exactly, or where the raw materials are coming from.
Right.
And often, you know, larger brands tend not to know that. Angela, how about you? What are you most excited about in the next 6 to 12 months?
Absolutely, yeah. So throughout our time in 2020, we were, you know, all in quarantine and kind of questioning sustainable fashion in general because we had so much time on our hands. So basically, we wanted to create a new collection, but we were a little bit concerned about doing so in the middle of a pandemic when everyone's incomes are pretty much restricted. And so we're sort of starting to wonder who sustainable fashion was actually catering to, be it that everything comes at a typically higher price point due to having higher wages, you know, sustainable materials, things like that. So we wanted to, or we thought that sustainability should be for everyone. There shouldn't be any sort of pricing demographic in order to shop sustainably. And while resale and consignment is such a great option, we totally understand that some people want to be more creative and want to wear something that is new. So something that we started working on that we're really excited about is basically working on our own efforts to democratize sustainable fashion. So we just released our latest collection, actually in the form of a book, which includes like step-by-step instructions on how to make designer items from Adif, and then also 5 other contemporary designers using items from your home. So we have like shower curtains, umbrellas, bed sheets, things like that. And we broke it down for everyone in like step-by-step assembly with like full illustrations, all of that. So you can actually participate into brands that might traditionally be out of reach in terms of price point, just by, you know, following these ingredients or these steps. And since we published it, we've gotten a lot more requests from other brands, and we see like a huge future where it comes to open sourcing like one's proprietary designs and sort of creating things more for the community with a larger focus on accessibility as it relates to the entire fashion industry.
Wow, I love that. That is so cool and so unique and innovative. You know, we all tend to get our blinders on sometimes and say, oh, we're a fashion brand. We're supposed to be creating fashion products or garments specifically, and never kind of widen the lens to say, wait, actually, what else can we be creating that would be valuable to our customers and the community? And that's a super cool one.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, we saw like feedback from customers like this, our tent jacket, it's an expensive piece because it, you know, is made ethically. It has all the sustainable materials and things like that. And so many people wanted to participate with our brand, but we just, you know, we're out of price due to our manufacturing efforts. So we were really just questioning how we could be able to release those designs and let everyone get involved. And even though the book is actually like for sale on our website, we are going through each recipe and actually posting them on TikTok and Instagram. So if you want to just try it out and not really sure if it's right for you, you can just go online and learn how to do it yourself without having to pay any upfront costs.
I know I love the tasty videos, the like 2 or 3 minute quick videos about different cooking recipes. Are you doing something similar for?
It's basically that. Well, so the funny thing is it's called the open source fashion cookbook, because I was just like comparing the similarities between learning how to cook something with a cookbook or recipe. And so we call all of the garments that you're making recipes. So it's broken down the same way with like an ingredients list, prep times, cook times, things like that, and just really trying to make it understandable and comprehensible for anyone who might not even have a background in design.
Super cool. I love it. So let me ask you one more question, given that all of the audience here works for brands. It sounds like when you published that, you said that a number of brands reached out to you and they want to participate. So what does that actually mean? What does participation, if you're a brand, look like?
Yeah, so basically we're asking all brands and basically anyone who's interested in this initiative to submit at least one design to us, and we'll work together to create like the formatted recipe for people to be able to do it from home. And it could be an item that's from a new collection. It could be exclusive just to, you know, the cookbook or things like that. But basically, we're just challenging everyone to think, how can someone make their products using accessible household materials, and to think a little bit more critically on like who's able to shop from them, and if they want to be able to attract new markets or to get a new customer, this could be a good introductory effort. So basically, if you're interested, yeah, just reach out to us anywhere, and would love to have more brands on board for the next edition and for all of our next initiatives with it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Very cool. So yeah, as it's clear here, there's so much diversity in terms of how you take kind of the definition of sustainability and circularity and make it meaningful for the brand and your customers. So Dana, I want to ask you the next question first, and that's with regard to trends that you're seeing. And that can be anything from consumer trends, customer trends. You know, what are they saying to you? Do you have any representative quotes from customers about what you know, you see to be their emerging needs or growing needs, or maybe other trends, even outside of customer trends that are dictating where you're going with your circularity efforts?
Yeah, we're starting to see more engagement from the customers in general. You know, when we made this shift, it wasn't because, you know, customers were demanding us to be more responsible. So we're starting to kind of see now where people are coming and shopping and asking more questions about the materials or the process, which we love. We love when people are curious about those things and are asking those kinds of questions, because sometimes we get a little hesitant to put too much information on the website, right? Like how much is somebody actually reading through that stuff? Do they really care? So, which then we think, okay, maybe we need to do more storytelling. Adam, you mentioned the Instagram chat Mara and I had done together. That was the first time that her and I ever like publicly sat and spoke in front of an audience, which is crazy because for years, her and I have been doing this in separate, in siloed situations, and we don't really engage with our customer quite enough. When we launched Mara Hoffman Full Circle, we definitely got an amazing response from customers about the ability to now actually trade in those pieces and be able to purchase something new on the site. Or we acquired a new customer. There was a couple who said, "Oh my God, now I can buy something from the brand." I think it was Sean who talked about the accessibility aspect, right? So we have a new price point that we're speaking to. We're also seeing that customers are just they're just hungry for more information. It's a really hard space to navigate. We as brands, we all know that, right? There's like, how do we as brands figure out what's right versus wrong, or how are we maneuvering and making these conscious like efforts and improvements in our brands? And then how can we expect the customer to know how to make the right purchase? So we try to like make that as easy as possible, and letting the consumer know that we're taking on that responsibility. But we want to also give them the tools to figure out how to, whether it's they're approaching it by voting with their dollars, or that how are they keeping these pieces in their closets longer, engaging with repairing. Angela, I'm obsessed with this cookbook. I want to talk to you after. I absolutely love this idea. Yeah, I think consumers are just interested. They want more facts, right? They're finally putting together the reality that clothes don't just magically appear somewhere, right? That there's actual people behind them, that our fibers are mostly coming from finite resources. And there's just a lot of curiosity out there right now, which is exciting.
I think that's great. One trend that I've noticed being in sustainability for now over a decade is that in the past, we tended to hide this information from consumers, or at least not make it clear to them. It was on some back wonky page of a website or in a report or something like that, but consumers never read that stuff. But it's interesting to hear now that you're bringing it to the fore. I assume on product pages, on your website, on labels and other materials where customers are actually looking because they want this information.
Yeah, and to that point, Adam, also as an industry, right? Like we're finally kind of moving away from that competitive aspect, and we're sharing. We post on our site our factories, and if there's a brand out there who's interested in finding a factory who's working in these innovative techniques, I'm so happy to always share those resources, right? We want to like move the needle together. So that's something that we've really seen shift also, which is this non-competitive landscape, which is really inspiring.
Yeah, awesome. Sean, what are you seeing in terms of customer trends? And I'll start by saying that I loved what you described in terms of the foundation of your brand when you first launched, that customers were coming to you saying how great it is that you're sustainable using fabrics, upcycled fabrics, etc. So now, 6 or 7 years into the brand, where's the customer bringing you next?
I mean, it's funny. It's the same thing. Like they just are continually telling us they love what we do, so we always do new initiatives. And like Dana was saying, like it's on the product page, it's on the Instagram. Like this is 100% sustainable, upcycled. The more we tell them, the more they're excited about it. I think that it's a new business today, and I think fashion has trends and they come in and out, but I don't think it's funny. I don't know what y'all think, but I don't think it's a trend. I think it's like a thing now. Like it's not accepted if you're not doing this, and it's not a marketing thing. It's just like, this is the way you want to live, and if you want to talk to this group of customers, you better be working on this. And they're very vocal. So trends, wide legs, skinny legs, all that stuff is almost irrelevant at this point. It's more how we how we talk about our brand, and if they identify with us. If they don't, then they're not part of our community, and if they do, then they are, and they want more from us. And not even in a demanding way. They're just excited that we're all doing it, you know?
Love it. Yeah. Angela, how about you? So, well, first of all, but even before that, sorry, but just to say that, Sean, what you just said, that this is not a trend, this is here to stay. That exact same sentiment came up in the last conversation last week as well with the experts on the line, where they said, look, this is not something that's fashionable today but gone tomorrow, or trendy in the moment, but this is something that brands need to put serious consideration into, because customers are only going to increase their considerations in this regard.
Yeah,
Angela,
100%.
I forgot the question now, but I have a feeling you remember it.
I believe
Trends.
it was customers, response to trends and sustainable fashion. Yes, I will say, I mean, everything that Dana and Sean are saying, it's like totally the same for us. The more our customers learn about sustainability and our efforts, the more they want to know. So something that's really been on our mind is using our brand as a way to provide education and as a platform to share more information, so that way people can really understand what goes into their garments and sort of change their relationship with fashion as they've come to know it, which I think is really important where it comes to transparency. With educating the customer on, the price of the labor to actually make this piece, to the textile, to the shipping costs, warehousing, things like that, sending it out. So that's something that we've been really focusing on trying just to educate the customer as much as we can as to why these things are important. And then also, not just when they're shopping from us, how can they apply these ideas going forward to looking at other brands and traditional retailers they usually visit? Where can they start asking these questions, and where can they even look for answers?
Great. So we got a really interesting question that came in that relates to some topics that both Angela and Dana brought up, which is regarding non-competitiveness. Dana, you talked about sharing your factories, and Angela, you've talked about open sourcing your designs. I think that's really interesting, but the question is there a risk to that as well? I mean, if you open source your designs, then what are people buying from you? Where does the business go? And Dana, with regard to the factories, I mean, who knows? Who knows what could? I mean, one, you're opening your books to competitors so they can do what you do. But also, what if something goes wrong? I imagine at one of your factories, then what does that mean for your brand? So I'll let either one of you go first to answer that audience question.
I can kick off. I will say, like, coming out of college with the tent jacket, I was told so many times to be careful about sharing your designs and having everyone copy you, so much to the point where I wasted so much money getting a patent on this jacket, and have done a complete 180 now where we're open sourcing designs. So I will say, like, I have seen a few attempted knockoffs to what I was originally trying to do as it related to previous collections. But at the end of the day, one of the main differentiators is our story and our process and how we do those things. If you try to just take an individual product without the story that comes to it, it comes up empty. There's something missing there. So where it relates to like the pieces we just designed and we released in the cookbook, I mean, it's possible someone could totally take it, but if that's the case, yeah, they're missing part of the story. They're missing the whole accessibility point. They're missing, everything that made it what it is. So then at that point, does it really have any value anymore? But I mean, I would just say, like, I've spent too much time worrying about other people, trying to come and copy our stuff, and it's only caused us to waste time and not actually focus on creating cool new products. So not something that I worry about too much.
I guess Sean could probably say the same thing. Others could do what he does as well, but it's the story and the brand that he's built around it that makes him unique.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of sharing sources with people, with the people that I've been in business for quite a long time, we all talk and I'm excited when my factory, does something that's super responsible, and so I turn other people onto it because I want that factory to strive, to also strive and thrive. So we do that a lot, you know what I mean? And people, listen, people will copy us all the time. I mean, I know Mara Hoffman gets copied by a lot of people, and I see people using our same language on their website that we do, and that's okay. Like, it's kind of a form of flattery in a way, but in terms of sharing resources, I think that's a different thing, because then you're helping the factory out and you're helping out the supplier versus, so there's two types of, of things. They're sharing information on supply chain stuff, and then design stuff, which is a little bit more sensitive. But people since the cavemen have been copying each other's designs, so I think it's a form of flattery.
Yeah, and it keeps us on our toes, right? Like, we just have to keep being better and improving and creating something new and smarter, or coming up with new, business models, how to get away from that traditional, right? Like, strategy of creating revenue from selling new things. And I think as far as like the sharing of factory resources, we've had no issues with it. We've been sharing that information for a long time. We don't work with a lot of really large facilities that big brands are coming in and taking our space. We also have established really strong relationships with these factories where they're committed, we're equally committed to each other. So they're not going to just push us back because somebody new walks in the door. And we hope not, right? But like Sean said, like, collectively, if you find somebody who's doing amazing things, you want to share that. You want to see them succeed as well. And never do we want to carry the burden of one factory relying on us, because we've been in that situation. We're in those situations right now where our factories are really hurting for business. And so our goal, we always feel as a brand, is to share them and support them. And so we work with organizations, we work with Nest, we get those factories on the Artisan Guild so that other brands can see that factory and what they're capable of. We've even, gone in and helped build a website for one of our factories so that they could then share that with other brands. So you just got to move away from that fear side of it.
That's awesome. We've been talking about maybe the less tangible elements of circularity and sustainability, the feel good, though it's more than that, because at the end of the day, what are brands? They're the emotions that that they inspire in people. So it's certainly not just a feel good. It is the basis of your business. But let's focus now on the business itself. I mean, the hard benefits, if you want to think about it that way. So each of you have unique efforts relating to sustainability and circularity. You're communicating that to your customers. Your brands now are based on the premise of your respective sustainability efforts. And so how does all of this benefit the brand? Are we seeing more loyal customers, higher lifetime value for customers? Is it easier for you to acquire customers because of the story that you tell about your brand? I mean, what is it that is a hard, tangible, quantifiable benefit that these efforts are bringing to you? And Angela, do you want to take this first?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. I will say, since we launched with a sustainable business model, it's hard to compare to a time where, or any metrics that we would have had in the past if we weren't, prioritizing sustainability at any point. But I mean, I have yet to see like a single negative about being a sustainable circular brand. I mean, it can be a little bit more challenging where it comes to sourcing and figuring things out on that end. But in terms of sales, in terms of new customers, we continually see more engagement from our customers. We have a pretty loyal following who every single time we release something new, we can expect to see their names on our Shopify for new orders. So I would say, yeah, I mean, I think sustainability it's a key pillar of our business, and It's helped us retain customers for this long, and we're always trying to think of new ways we can continue to engage them beyond just like purchasing product individually. So yeah, I mean, I can't really think of any downsides with being a sustainable circular business.
Great. Then we should all do it. How about Sean? What do you see? What are the business? How does the business benefit from who you are as a brand?
I do think that the customer or the customer becomes more loyal, and I think you have a better lifetime value when you have a message that they believe in versus just a jean they like or a t-shirt they like. So you inherently have a stronger loyalty built-in loyalty program that people are much more apt to remain in your community, even if they bought something and didn't fit them properly. They don't leave you because they believe in your value system. So that's kind of an interesting part of the business, and also when you make product this way, the quality's better. It's made a little bit slower. The quality's better. The recycled fabrics tend to be stronger. There's a lot of things that go into doing it this way, and the quality just ends up better. And I think at the end of the day, you also build a lot of more trust with the customers and your saying, like, it's almost funny. Like, I don't think any of us use the word customer anymore. It's like almost like our community. The community that happens to buy stuff from us. It's not so much like what's the customer want, or like what is our community into, and like let's serve them some more of that. And then that's how you build some trust. And also, we're unique that we have the individuality thing, because each, when they are purchasing a Levi's jean from us, or anything that we upcycle, each piece is unique, so it's individual. So we promote kind of like individuality based on that. So I think those are the benefits to it. And again, I think the benefit also is a personal benefit, that you just feel good about it every day. And I think that comes through in your product, and then it comes through in your community, and everybody feels good. So, those are that's a it sounds not tangible, but it is tangible, because when someone likes what you're doing, they buy more of it.
So profound, but so simple about a community, and in particular a loyal community, because I think we all know that customers can be very fickle, and so and anything that can be done to further align them with who we are or who they are, then that creates that additional element of loyalty. That's great. Dana.
Yeah, I mean, I think Angela and Sean really touched on everything, right? And at this point, I don't want to say shame on you if you're not figuring out how to start, where to start doing something, right? Any brand could be doing anything at this point, but just one thing that wasn't addressed, which I know that we as a brand can speak to, is also it's a way to generate a new revenue stream, right? So when we've launched this peer-to-peer resale model, we're actually and we also have Mara Hoffman Renewed, so we also partner with the Renewal Workshop, where we take back our damaged goods and repair them and resell them. So I think as a brand, when we're kind of trying to think of these other ways to operate out of that traditional business model we've touched on, circularity is a great approach to think of something, a different path for your customer, a different entry point, price point, a different way to engage community. There's no downside, right? Like Angela said, there's no reason why one wouldn't be moving forward in this space.
I hosted a panel maybe 6 or so months into the pandemic last year, and there was a different but also very interesting takeaway in terms of the business benefits of being sustainable, or more sustainable, and that's that whereas traditional brands tend to have excessive buys and hold on to a lot of inventory and require a lot of discounting, during the pandemic, that's never a great strategy, but that's an especially difficult strategy for brands in times like last year and this year as well. But sustainable brands often tend to have tighter buys with lower quantity runs, higher quality items that could potentially be warehoused for a year, or more timeless pieces that can be sold in later seasons. And so for all of those reasons, the panelists that were from more sustainable brands tended to be doing better in times of difficulty than panelists that were from more traditional brands. You know, they were scrambling last year, and we saw the result of the impact of COVID. So the next question, you know, if you could step out of your own shoes as experts in this particular field, with brands that are now committed to sustainability, and step into the role of a brand that might not be there yet, what would you do first? And Sean, maybe I'll turn that over to you. If you could dispel your wisdom to a brand that is not as sustainable or circular as redone now.
I mean, it's funny. The first thing I would say is make sure you have people in their 20s working for you, because they are extremely passionate about that. And I know Dana's laughing too, because she probably knows what I'm talking about. But that it takes a younger mindset to like steer people on how to do this. So like when they're very in tune to this thing. So that would be my advice. Just making sure you have people that come to the table that's as passionate as sustainability should be. You know what I mean? So if you have a bunch of old Garmento guys, they're gonna think it's a marketing thing, and they're not gonna get. And it costs money in it. You got to invest in this thing, and you got to go through trials and tribulations, and it doesn't always work. So a lot of guys who are only focused on the margin and the end result, they're going to pretend they believe in this thing. So I would say, if you do believe in it and you want to be part of this, hire the people that are even more passionate about it and bring experience to the table, who come from other companies that were part of that system also. That would be there's a lot of other things, between finding the supply chain, but it all comes if you have the people that are passionate about it, and the youngest workforce are the most passionate about it, and they come with the most they come with the thing they need the most, is to save the planet for them. And I'm a little older, so it's a different situation, but they come with that passion of saving the planet for themselves.
I love that. Well, Angela or Dana, you want to chime in?
I can speak as someone who is 27 on that side of the spectrum. I totally understand how circularity and sustainability can be really daunting. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of technological aspects to it. What I would say is, figure out one aspect of that you are truly passionate about and just start there. I don't identify as an expert in sustainability in any sense. I feel like there's still so much to learn. So basically, just figure out what that first starting point is for you. Maybe it's a take back program. Maybe it's working with dead stock materials. Maybe it's, anything from there, and just use that as an opportunity to grow. If you're a large company and you're trying to incorporate new sustainability initiatives, there's so many smaller brands, mine included, that are willing to work with you to create a larger impact. So don't be afraid to reach out to the small companies that are already doing it from the get-go, and trying to put it into practice at scale. And then on the smaller brand side, start somewhere and don't be afraid to ask questions. Sustainability community within brands is probably the most helpful and open network in fashion, because we're all sort of working towards the same goal. I met Dana, I don't even know, it might have been 2 years ago at this point, I believe at a conference. And I was asking for connections, and she was so helpful and passed me off to some other teams of other brands. And it's all, everyone within the sustainability community knows each other and is willing to connect you to whoever you need, because they want to see you succeed. They want to see the planet succeed. They want to see everyone on the planet succeed. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and everyone's willing to help you.
Thank you for that. Dana, just given that we only have a few minutes left in this conversation, I want to ask you a slightly different question,
Sure.
Which is related to what Angela just said. There's so much to be done. It would take a lifetime to understand the solutions to all of the different sustainability, responsibility, circularity issues that we need to address as a fashion industry. And so for you, what do you see as the best tools or resources or guidance, the places that you go to learn and find solutions to the problems that you're trying to solve.
Yeah. Well, I have to mention we also have to engage all ages in this conversation, right? So it's like, how do we build sustainability? We take those who are most excited, but how do we engage all? So it's really important to create exciting activations that reach a large audience, which is something we've been really successful within our organization by bringing in different departments into that conversation. But I think as far as like finding those resources, as Angela mentioned, leaning into other brands, reaching out to them, we would not be where we are today without going to those who I consider experts and asking them for advice, seeking their like successes and challenges. And people are willing to share that. Yeah, it did take some stalking individuals, but eventually they answered my calls and really, really helped guide me and was able to create a community of individuals that I can turn to when I have those questions. I also say change some of the questions that you ask to your current vendors or suppliers, or what are they doing? If you kind of let them know that you're interested in making this change within your organization, they might actually be able to support you and may be able to guide you into some initiatives that they're doing or things that they know that are going on. There's so many different ways now to educate oneself, right? We have the CFDA here putting together these amazing classes. There's their resource guide on their website. There's so many books within this space now if you want to, sit down and read some of those. There's different industry organizations. There's Textile Exchange. There's Ellen MacArthur. You had Fashion Positive. You had SAC. I mean, there's just an enormous amount. And I would say, getting into all of those newsletters that exist. The world of sustainability changes day to day. You're never going to know all. There's no such thing as being 100% sustainable. It's about continuously making those improvements. And I think if there's any brands who are on here, I always think of the small brands who are struggling with how do I do this, or they're bogged down with fear, or there are ways to do that. And it could be something so small as, we've talked about shifting out some of your fabrics, right? Like just changing some of those alternatives exist, whether they be recycled or they be, more responsibly sourced. The way you design, I think Angela talked on designing out waste, looking at your garments consumption, looking at trying to figure out what are the chemicals and the water usage that's being used. Talk to your factories. What do their water treatment plants look like? Are they recycling their water? What dyes do they use? Just shifting the conversations, really asking things in a way that gives you answers, and visiting your supply chain if you can. That always gives you an idea of what are some of the next questions that you might want to ask.
Great. Okay, well, we are at time. What I'd like to do is ask each one of you just to have some closing thoughts, and anything that's still on your mind that you feel like you didn't have a chance to say to this audience, or where you see the world going in the next 5 years, not more than a minute each. And then I'll turn it over to Sasha Brown at CFDA to close us out and mention their resource guide as well as a next step for brands that want to learn more. Anyone want to go first with your final thoughts?
Okay, I guess I can go. I think this is exciting to listen to Angela also, who is doing things, very creatively, and Dana, who's already been around a bit longer. So it's interesting to hear how we're all on the same, we're all from different walks of life. We're all on the same page from a sustainable thing and understanding our communities. And I think it's exciting, and I love being on this panel with you guys. So for me, the next 5 years, I mean, like we were talking earlier, like we don't know what that looks like. We know what tomorrow looks like pretty much, maybe, but the journey seems to be exciting and fun. And I've been in this business for a long time, and I guess my closing statement is this is the most fun I've had in 30 years in this business. And I've had some successful companies, but this is the most fun every day. Even like I'm on holiday and I'm actually doing this because it's actually fun to do this, and it's exciting to be part of this world of creating the change. So thank you for having me too.
Well, thank you, Sean. How about Angela? You want to go next?
Yeah, goals for the future. I mean, I would love to see a day where sustainability and ethics isn't a differentiator within fashion, and that's just kind of a standard. I definitely think we're going to work there. Probably will take longer than 5 years, but No, amazing panel, just being with you, Sean, Dana, and Adam. I really hope that everyone listening has been able to take something tangible and apply it to the future. And yeah, I would just love to, for all the sustainable brands or even unsustainable brands listening, I'd love to question or ask you to question yourself, who are you designing for and how are you serving them and how might you be able to allow more people access to your brand? Just as that's kind of the main thing on my mind right now. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And thanks for the CFDA for putting this together.
Yeah, and I'll echo that one, Angela. I look forward to a day where sustainable fashion is fully inclusive, right? It's not siloed in this privileged opportunity of shopping. And I think the future of fashion is in 5 years, it's so unpredictable. I mean, I think of our journey as a brand 6 years ago, what we look like to what we are today, and that's extremely inspiring for me. You know, one of my biggest challenges is we manufacture swimwear. There couldn't be probably a more unsustainable product to make than swimwear. And so I look forward to innovative materials coming out where we'll be able to actually take our, swim suits and regenerate them into new swimsuits. Like that would be truly inspiring to me.
Love it. Well, Sasha, if you're still on, do you want to have some closing words as well?
Yes, absolutely. So Dana, thank you so much for plugging our sustainability resource hub on cfda.com. We greatly appreciate that. I did mention it during last week's webinar in my introduction that on cfda.com, we have a comprehensive sustainability resource hub. And within that, there is a materials index. And I know there's some questions that came through about sourcing sustainable materials and fibers. And I'll make sure to send you all the link to the materials index post webinar. There were also a few questions about domestic production. We also have a production directory on cfda.com with over 270 US-based fashion manufacturers. So I'll send that through as well for your consideration. We have two incredible experts at the CFDA, Sarah Kozlowski and Cal McNeil, who oversee those two initiatives. So if you're interested in connecting with them, I'll make sure to include their contact information as well. But I just want to conclude by saying to Sean, Dana, Angela, and Adam, thank you so much for bringing this conversation to life for us. It was incredible to listen to. We can't thank you enough for going through this series with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sasha, and thank you to the panel.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
We'll see you next week for our final conversation. I'll send through the registration link. Thank you all.
Bye.